My name is Christopher Taylor Stokes. I go by Taylor. I am very pleased and honored to be able to do this segment of the program Behind the Ivy. I first came to Vanderbilt in 1969 as its first African-American football player. I was here at Vanderbilt from the period of 1969 through 1973, at which time I left without my degree, and that's important, and we'll talk about that more later. I left Vanderbilt for a number of years, over 30 years, almost 35 years I was gone, and then I came back in 2007 to complete my degree work and graduated May 8th, 2009.
Now, what was it like for you being here in '69 as a scholarship athlete? So on some level, you're wearing an additional level of a hat that could potentially be pretty heavy. Not only are you wearing the black hat, you're also wearing the athlete hat.
Right. Yeah. I sort of had like double duty in terms of being, a black athlete and also being a minority student here. And one of the things that at that time that was also that I think that permeated through the group of African Americans that were here, and certainly for myself, was a sense that sort of a pioneering spirit that we had to make this thing work. The weight of the race, so to speak, was upon us because we knew that in a sense we were the first group in a large sense, the ones who would probably set the precedent for those to come behind us. So there was a lot of pressure on me to want to do well, not only athletically, but also I felt a social responsibility to want to do well academically. And truth be told, for a while, I did do well academically, but then there began to be problems in my football. When that didn't go well, then that sort of corresponded into sort of a descent in my academics as well.
With athletics, I would imagine that you experienced some pretty harsh conditions with regards to racism or discrimination on the field or relating to athletics. Were there any in particular that you can think of that still permeate or stand out to you today when you think about experiences or ordeals that you had?
As it played out in my football, I had a couple of incidents. One directly related to Vanderbilt, another sort of like directly related to just simply playing in the SEC at that time. The one that was just simply football related against playing in the SEC happened when I went to Mississippi State, what would have been my red shirt sophomore year, and we beat them 49-14, and I was the place kicker on the team at that time, and so actually on that afternoon I set a Vanderbilt record that stood for a number of years, kicking 7 extra points after a touchdown, and so needless to say, the Mississippi State people were a little upset, and one of the caveats of playing down in Starkville is that they placed the visitors bench right in front of the student section. At least they did at that time. I'm not sure whether they do that now or not, but certainly at that point, 1971, they did. And I had racial slurs hurled at me, the N-word. I had things thrown at me, and it was a period where actually I had to walk around the whole ball game when I was on the sideline with my helmet on and in the protection of a couple of my teammates. So it was sort of a little bit of a tense atmosphere. The second incident that I can recall happened here on campus. It was during my red shirt period when I wasn't playing, which would have been my natural sophomore year. And we were actually, oddly enough, we were playing another team from Mississippi. And so I wasn't playing, which meant I was in attendance at the game as a student. And a group of black kids left the ball game before it was over with. And we came up, we were on our way back to the Carmichael Towers, and we came through what's known as Fraternity Row. And anybody who's been on Vanderbilt's campus on the weekend, the home games, know that it's a real live party. And so some of the kids were a little inebriated, drunk, is a better way to put it. And we got called the N-word, and I can remember a bunch of us got really upset and actually, didn't really start fighting. We just, retaliated by verbally yelling back and ended up actually pushing over a car, a little Volkswagen, turned it over. But to be called and harassed even at that time, by the use of the N word was was an experience to let you know that racism had permeated even the grounds of Vanderbilt University.
And thinking about relations with coaches, did you ever have any situation? I did feel like the coaches were pretty fair in their treatments of you as far as playing time, as far as giving you opportunities.
One of the things that I really had a huge problem with, I mentioned that I was here originally in 1969. And I left in 1973, and that I had been redshirted during my football career here. And one of the things that set very badly with me is that I never felt that I should have been redshirted. I felt being redshirted was sort of like an outgrowth of my coaches not really understanding and appreciating my talent, and I felt that at periods of time that I did experience racism with my coaches. I can remember one particular incident, and I won't call the coach's name, but he was my receivers coach, because even though I was a place kicker, I really originally came to I came to Vanderbilt for both positions of place kicking and wide receiver, and so I was playing wide receiver, and that was really my passion to play that position. And my position coach one day really yelled and screamed at me. He didn't call me out of my name or make any slur, but I could understand that part of what he had in him was like, I felt was racial intended. I'd made a play, caught football one-handed on a post pattern, and really what I thought made an excellent play, certainly a out of the ordinary play, and a play that I thought should be applauded, but yet my position coach degraded me for catching the football one-handed, and screamed at me about trying to be a showboat and trying to be a flamboyant and just catch the ball with both hands. Well, it was a play that couldn't have been made any other way other than the way I made it. And it might have been a little bit upsetting that I was running against the first team defense and the cornerbacks. Nobody had covered me all afternoon. And I think a frustration level had probably reached a point to where, let me get on this guy. And a lot of times black athletes are tagged with the, with the pretty boy image, or the not trying so hard, or trying to make easy look spectacular. But certainly that wasn't the case then. And the way he presented himself, and the anger that I saw in his face, it had nothing to do with the fact that I had done anything wrong, and it really made me feel like I had a lot to do with the fact that these white coaches just weren't used to being around black athletes. And there was no way I could question my talent level, because not sounding self-serving, but the point of the matter is, I could play, and I was playing at a higher level than any of the other wide receivers at my position. But I also knew that that politics played a lot in Vanderbilt football. It had a lot to do about who were the biggest donors, whose son was playing on the team, whose father gave the most money, what did they want to happen, and a lot of times, talent didn't rule the day. It had a lot to do. It had a lot more other aspects that came into it that were totally out of my control, and to me, that was very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
You mentioned I didn't know that you were a member of Omega Psi Phi as
Right.
one of the charter members.
Exactly.
Because one of my next question was organizations and groups that you were involved with while you were here, and kind of what all existed for you to be a part of, and what were you a part of?
Yeah. Well, in 1971, we created, like I said, the Theta Beta Line, Omega Psi Phi, first black Greek organization on Vanderbilt's campus. Consisted of, I think, 13 or 14 brothers, and it was one of the highlights of being here at Vanderbilt. In college life, particularly in black college life, the Greek experience is a huge experience, and to be able to bring that to Vanderbilt as its originator, was really a huge accomplishment, and sort of set the precedent for what was to follow, because no matter who else came after us, we were the first, and so I took a great deal of pride in that, and the relationships that I developed over the time. like I said, with my black brothers, Greek brothers, was very, was very instrumental and very important to me.
I want to move now to that final year, 73, I believe, and making that decision to leave. What ultimately was it that brought that to culmination for you?
In 1973, I left Vanderbilt. Actually, what I did, I withdrew. I want to make it clear I did not flunk out, but I decided to withdraw. And I withdrew because I'd gotten to the end of my rope. I had, and I have to be very honest here as I reflect now in 2010 thought pattern that I allowed Vanderbilt to break my spirit. They broke my spirit, and the thing about it is that I allowed them to break my spirit. And so in 1973. I just didn't have. I was at the end. It was it for me. I hadn't. Football wasn't going well. I mean, that was just becoming abysmal in terms of everything that was happening there. I didn't see any future. Was not progressing at all through that. 72 had a terrible year. Came back in 73, and I was just like, that's it. That's it. And my grades were slipping, and I was on the verge of flunking out. And so instead of doing that, I just went ahead and withdrew.
I'm going to take you back to the night of the Black Graduate Recognition Ceremony last year. And when they called your name and you came to the stage, I was trigger happy with the picture. And I kept getting pictures of you pointing.
Yeah.
Pointing, and then pointing. What were you thinking doing all of that?
Well, that was my way of sharing the moment. I was pointing at Lou Outlaw. I was pointing at my wife, and in a distance, I was pointing at my father. Because as much acclaim as I have gotten for finishing this vision, the original vision belongs to him. And so not only was I completing what I came back to do, I was completing what he had started for me, what he had envisioned for me to do.